There, this is Tom with a daily walk, ourwalkinchrist.com. So, I want to follow up with parables, with a specific discussion of one of the parables, one of my favorites, maybe even my second favorite. There is one I like more than this. So the parable of the sower. I'm trying to get my lighting right here. I got the sun's fighting against me. So the parable of the sower. So this is found in Matthew 13, and it's Mark, either Mark 3 or Mark 4. I think it's Mark 4, and Luke, I want to say it's 9-ish. Don't quote me on those. I know it's in Matthew 13, so you can read about it there. And then just hunt around for it in the other Gospels. I want to say it's Mark 4 and Luke 9, but can't remember for sure. But in this parable, he says this guy throws seeds. So he's going to scatter some seeds. Sorry, I had a deer fly attacking me. So this guy scatters seeds. And he says some of the seed fell on good soil. Some of the seed fell on shallow soil. Some of the seed fell on soil with thorns, and some of the seed fell on the hard path. Okay. So, of course, I think he gave us those seeds in reverse order. That's okay. So, with this parable, the sower, the man sowing the seed, is us. It's the Christians. And the seed is all good seed. The question in this parable is about the soil. Now, before we go in and analyze this parable itself, let me start by saying that the parables, analyzing these parables works really well to the point they're going, but if you overanalyze them, you could find yourself in a little bit of trouble. I'm just going to start by saying that. In each of the parables, if you take each of the individual parables as a separate, each one of them teaches a principle that when taken too far, you can really misinterpret it. But if you actually approach it from the angle and from the standpoint of taking all of the parables together, you really get a good, clear picture. They balance one another out. Whereas you could go too far in this one, another one will say, oh, that's not true. So just keeping that in mind as well. So the seed is good seed. This man who's sowing it is us Christians preaching the gospel. So we're to cast out the seed, which is God's word. And then the important point about this parable is that soil. Because the soil is kind of like our hearts. The hearts that hear it. Some hearts are soft and ready to hear the gospel of Jesus Christ. That is the soil, the seed that fell among the path is the one that is not ready to hear the gospel. When it falls upon the path, it's trampled under, it's eaten by birds, it doesn't take root, it doesn't grow, there's no excitement about the gospel, it's an outright rejection of who Jesus Christ is. That's what it is. And then you have the shallow soil. So this is kind of the soil, there's a rock bed underneath it, it does not have enough water to grow and to mature the plant. They shoot up though, these plants shoot way up. And when they shoot way up, when the sun comes down and hits them, there's really no root. It can't get any further. There's no moisture inside the soil, and the plant quickly shrivels up and dies. So this is your Christian or your person that really they have these outward signs of accepting the gospel. Now there's some argument, are these people saved or not? I personally do not believe they are. I'm not going to go into the whole defense as to why here, but I did write about it in my book, Testing and Temptations. I don't believe this person is saved. And I think a lot of theologians would agree these people are not necessarily saved. So what this person is the person who rises quick. They have this outward expression where they accept the gospel. They look like they're going to do all these great, amazing things for God, and then persecution comes. And you never see them again. They walk away from the church, they go back to their friends, and it was a little phase of, he went weird that one week, That's the seed that fell among the shallow soil. Then, of course, you have the seed that grew among the weeds. So he grows up, accepts the gospel, but then he's strangled out by all these weeds. What this seed is the person who, this is the person that I again don't believe they're necessarily saved. Again, it's all up to God. I'm not the one that controls all that, but just from what I know from other scriptures, and I have a defense of that in my book. But this is the person who got so focused on the things of the world that they've walked away from the gospel. These people remain sympathetic to the gospel, probably for life, but they're deceived. They really believe that they're saved, but they're not willing to give anything up for Jesus. They're not really willing to sacrifice anything for him. They'd much rather have their toys than have their God. And that is the soil that grew up among the thorns and the weeds. He even says they were choked out. And then there's the seed that fell on the fertile soil. This is the seed that throws on this fertile soil, and as it grows, it produces an abundance of fruit. These are the people that go out, and the fruit is people who go out and make more believers and share the gospel more and sacrifice things for Christ and live like a Christian. And so really, this parable of the sower is about preparing our hearts and us having the right heart. Now, taking too far, you can say, well, this person always is here and this person always is here. Understand that while I might throw the gospel on the seed of somebody's heart who's not ready, eventually that soil may be ready. So it's not like this person rejected the gospel, so they're never in. And that's where you can take this one too far. The purpose of the parable is a simple message. What is the condition of the heart? Right? So if the condition of your heart says, I don't care, then you're that path. If it says, well, I don't like the persecution from my friends, then you have that issue of the shallow soil. If you're so concerned about your things that you're not concerned about Jesus, that's the soil, or the weeds. And then you have the parable, the soil that fell on the fertile ground, which is the one that grows. So that being said, the parable of the sower is a fascinating story about just getting out there and scattering the seed. We don't need to be so concerned with who accepts Jesus. We have the command to go and scatter the seed. Now, there will be other parables which will discuss different seed types. There will be parables discussing what salvation is. There will be parables discussing the cost. There's all sorts of things. The purpose of this parable is to get us to see our objective is simply to preach the gospel. Get out there and spread the gospel of Jesus Christ. Just spread it. We don't need to be concerned about the hearts because we can't control those hearts. I can't control the path versus the thorns versus the shallow soil versus the fertile soil. I really can't control that. What I can control is, do I go out there and throw a handful of seed? So let's get out there and preach the gospel of Jesus Christ. Let's not be so focused on who accepts Jesus and who doesn't accept Jesus. Let's just go out there and share the gospel. This has been Tom with the Daily Walk, ourwalkinchrist.com.